The Washington Post recently ran an article all about fake news and how it's a scourge upon the planet. And it even went so far as to name other media outlets as fake news, as if it were the arbiter of what's real or not. As if there's this clear distinction between what's real news or fake news. And the truth is, it's a lot more complicated than that. And a lot of factors go into a piece of news being real or fake. And a big one is conflicts of interest that influence an outlet's bias. And for a prime example, we don't need to look any further than the Washington Post itself. In 2013, Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post for $250 million. He's the CEO of Amazon, with no prior experience in the news business at all. Journalism was never his thing until he bought the paper of record in our nation's capital. That might not be a bad conflict of interest necessarily, other than you might imagine the Washington Post doing articles that might be good for Amazon. But where it gets really sketchy is when you learn about another deal Bezos did that exact same year. Because in 2013, Bezos also won a $600 million contract from none other than the CIA. So he bought the Washington Post for $250 million, and that same year, just 4 months later, he got $600 million from the CIA to handle its cloud computing, double what he just paid for this real news newspaper. And ever since then, the Washington Post has done tons of stories on the CIA, and yet it doesn't bother to disclose that information. Like, normally, such a huge conflict of interest is noted by the journalists writing the articles themselves. They write like, full disclosure, my paycheck is made of money that my boss got from the CIA. But the Washington Post doesn't do that. So now here we are 3 years later, and the Washington Post is declaring itself the arbiter of what's true or not, including how sources at the CIA say our election was compromised. They say that's real news, even though it's clear that they probably have a bias toward the CIA, considering the CIA dumped a bunch of money into their owner. Since then, lots of people have petitioned the Washington Post to, at the very least, include a note in their articles about the CIA disclosing their conflicts of interest, but the Post has just ignored them. Which leaves me with just one question. Is that how a real news outlet would behave? It's not simple anymore, right? So I'll let you decide for yourself.
It's been revealed that during the Iraq War, the Pentagon paid more than $500 million to a British firm to spread fake al-Qaeda videos. And it's part of what's believed to be one of the most costly PR contracts in history. Washington's intentions were aimed at portraying al-Qaeda in a negative light. However, critics claim the videos may have instead promoted the terrorist agenda. The staff of PR company Bell Pottinger were stationed inside the highly secured U.S. military and intelligence HQ in Camp Victory in Baghdad. The revelations came to light thanks to a video editor, Martin Wells, who worked for Bell Pottinger in Iraq during 2006 and 2008. Well, he now joins us live here on RT to tell us more. Well, hello there, Martin, and thanks for joining us here on RT International. In one of the interviews, you described your time in Camp Victory in Baghdad as, quote, shocking, eye-opening, and life-changing. Tell us a bit more about that. Why was it so?
I thought that it was a matter of real concern that planted stories intended to serve a national purpose abroad came home and were circulated here and believed here, because this would mean that the CIA could manipulate the news in the United States by channeling it through some foreign country. Now, we're looking at that very carefully.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal?
We do have people who submit pieces to American journals.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks?
This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into an executive session.
At CBS, we had been contacted by the CIA. As a matter of fact, by the time I became the head of the whole news and public affairs operation in 1954, ships had been established, and I was told about them and asked if I'd carry on with them.
We have quite a lot of detailed information, and we will evaluate it, and we will include any evidence of wrongdoing or any evidence of impropriety in our final report and make recommendations.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to the national news services, AP and UPI?
Well, again, I think we're getting into the kind of detail, Mr. Chairman, that I'd prefer to handle in executive session.
Senator, do you think that you named the news organizations in your final report?
That remains to be decided.
I think it was entirely in order for our correspondents at that time to make use of CIA agent chiefs of station and other members of the executive staff of CIA as sources of information which were useful in their assessments of world conditions.
Would you say that continues today?
Well, I would think probably for a reporter it would continue today, but because of all of the revelations of the period of the 1970s, it seems to me that a reporter's got to be much more circumspect in doing it now, or he runs the risk of at least being looked at with considerable disfavor by the public. I think you've got to be much more careful about it.
It's a disgrace, and I think they ought to apologize to start with Michael Cohen.
Sir, since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization.
You are attacking our news organization. Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state, Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you state categorically, Mr. President-elect, can you give us a question? You're attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you give us a question?
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir.
Go ahead.